Hello. Um, so I participated in Sunday school and I went to VBS every year as a child. And this regularity of going to church embedded the ideologies of Christian faith in my life. So the principles and morals of Christianity were already instilled within me from a young age. And I followed them the best that I could by doing stuff like not cursing, not stealing, or just anything that I was taught was wrong in church. And although I followed the rules of Christianity as best as I could, I didn't feel a personal connection with Christ at all. Even regularly attending church, I felt a lack of an intimate relationship with him. And at school, I would tell my friends that I was Christian, but the way I lived my life wouldn't reflect that. And if you looked from the outside, I would be no different from everyone else. And despite knowing all the Bible stories and teachings of Jesus, I had a very weak faith. And I felt like I was just following guidelines to being a Christian rather than actually being one. And I was continually told that as a Christian, we should have a strong personal connection with Christ and God, but I didn't feel any personal connection at all, and I felt very distant, as if he was just a figure. Around grades 7 and 8, I didn't attend any fellowships after I went to the English congregation, and I only attended church on Sundays. I would be invited to join fellowships like Fidelity, but I would find excuses not to go. But they kept bothering me about it, and eventually I started attending regularly. But when I went to these fellowships, I didn't go for God. I went to socialize with my other church members, and so my relationship with God was still really weak. The greatest growth I experienced in my faith was when I volunteered and when I served at the church. I started volunteering at VBS around the time I entered high school, and I also became a student leader after that, in Fidelity. When I served the kids in VBS, as well as my brothers and sisters in Fidelity, I realized that if I wanted to serve God truly, I had to have a relationship with him myself. Like, I couldn't preach while not having a strong faith. So this realization urged me to start pursuing a real relationship with God. And I did this by trying to center my life around him, and I tried to apply his teachings in my everyday life. But my pursuit for a strong relationship only got me so far because I was fairly sheltered as a Christian, and the people I interacted with in VBS and in fellowship and at church, they already knew Christ, and the same morals and stuff were already instilled within them as well. So it may be because I was already numb to it, but I couldn't see God working in my life or working in the people around me. So there were times when something good happened and I would thank God because that's what I was taught, but in the back of my head I would always have doubt, and I would think to myself that maybe it was just a coincidence. It wasn't until I attended my first mission trip and served my first year at Ojabugamu in 2017 that God clearly showed me his work and how much impact he can have on other people's lives. Ojabugamu is a Cree community in Quebec, and our church runs a 5-day overnight kids camp there. I was able to meet people who didn't grow up being a Christian, and they were just being introduced to God and Christ. But despite this, they still let us serve them open-heartedly, and they listened as we talked about the gospel. And I learned a lot about the kids there, and when praying with some of them, I could really see an impact that God has on them. And this is the first time that's ever happened. And during this trip, I was able to step out of my comfort zone, and I had interactions and conversations that prior to this I wouldn't have been comfortable with. I experienced a lot of personal and spiritual growth during the trip, and for the first time I clearly saw God working in other people, and I understood the importance of allowing God to work through us. I'm still trying to further strengthen my faith in Christ, and there have been many challenges and struggles in maintaining a healthy relationship with him, but I continually try to come back to him once I realize I've strayed too far away. And there are ideologies and teachings in the Bible that I don't 100% agree with or are unclear to me, but I don't think this is a bad thing. I think that questioning certain things and overcoming doubts will strengthen my faith, and it's better than mindlessly following something like a manual. I want to genuinely understand God and what his purpose for me is. I want to take another step forward in my faith by getting baptized, and I feel like I've been stuck at a standstill in my faith. I feel like I haven't had any growth since my first OJ experience. And I feel like I only see him like fully working at OJ, not in my everyday life in Toronto. And through this baptism, I want to make Jesus a constant in my life rather than a cycle of constantly straying away from him and then coming back. And this baptism will also be a reminder to myself that I'm a part of God's kingdom and I have a responsibility to serve God and to allow Christ to work through me. Thank you.